There is an unfortunate reality that I think we have to confront today. And it is not that Kamala Harris is going to lose. We're so far from that.
David Pakman is a self-proclaimed progressive and host of The David Pakman Show. In this video, we're going to take a look at David Pakman's election night live stream and see how long it takes him to accept reality that his beloved Kamala Harris was going to get trounced by Donald J. Trump by the end of the election night. But first, I have a couple of clips of David Pakman leading up to the election that I believe will provide good context on where he was at heading into election night. In our first clip, David is talking about the now infamous Seltzer poll, where Ann Seltzer found from her polling that Kamala Harris was leading Donald Trump just days before the election by 3 percentage points in Iowa. We now know that this poll was atrociously incorrect. Trump ended up winning the state by over 13 points over Kamala Harris, meaning Seltzer's poll was off by over 16 points, causing them to believe that they could be about to witness a complete blowout on election night. Well, they were right. It was a complete blowout, just in Trump's favor and not Harris's. But let's see how David responded to seeing this poll.
How could this poll find something different than the other polls? And the explanation is herding. Not herding the cats, herding the dogs. What I mean is herding, H-E-R-D. There are reports that pollsters are getting results, and when they compare their results to the average of results, they go, I have a poll that's an outlier. Let me renormalize. Let me remove the outliers. And what this does is it herds all the polls in a sort of self-fulfilling vicious cycle to look very similar to each other. What the polls would show is a consensus, because they're trying to copy each other, that does not reflect reality.
Gotcha. So Seltzer's poll is much closer to reality. Now, I'm not going to claim that I'm some polling expert, because I'm definitely not, but it's quite apparent that this herding that Pakman is speaking of apparently is needed, otherwise you get wildly inaccurate results. But to be honest with you, I don't put much weight into many of these polls to begin with, and as we can tell, they have not been very reflective of actual results.
If there has been a swing towards Harris that is significant, then Michigan and Wisconsin certainly go to Harris. Pennsylvania probably does. Georgia probably does. Nevada, Arizona almost certainly do. There are people talking about Florida for Harris.
So now from this one single poll, many of his followers are now believing she could win every single swing state and maybe even Florida. They really will take any kind of data, despite its legitimacy, and just run with it if it suits their narrative. But let's get to our next clip. In this one, Pakman feels a need to call out Elon Musk after his appearance on Joe Rogan. Let's hear what he has to say.
This sort of freak out, if Trump doesn't win, everything will be over and terrible. And just consider how hyperbolic this all sounds.
If the Dems win this election, they will legalize enough illegals to turn the swing states, and everywhere will be like California. There will be no escape.
That is so insane.
This is the final, this is it. This is the last chance.
Has anybody tried to push back?
And I just want to go out and vote. Vote like your life depends on it. Vote like your future depends on it, because it does. This is the last chance, man.
Okay, this is the last chance. Now, I know that it's super popular to attack California in MAGA circles, but when Elon says everywhere will be like California if Harris wins, that sounds pretty damn good.
Ah, yes, California, the state with insanely high income and sales tax, astronomically high housing costs, increasingly growing homeless population, rampant drug addiction and mental illnesses, lenient enforcement of public nuisance laws, rising rates of property crime and theft. On top of that, many people, including Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, fleeing the state to go live somewhere else due to all of its issues. Not to mention the excessive regulation laws, and to top it all off, even with their high spending on education, their public schools often rank poorly among national metrics. But you're right, David. California sounds like a utopia. We should have all states like this. And I haven't even gotten into the illegal immigration problem. Our next clip has David Pakman talking about Polymarket. And I wanted to add this because over the election night, David Pakman was continually making it a point to bring up that Polymarket was run by Peter Thiel. And this should mean that the site's betting odds should not be trusted. But let's hear why he thinks that.
Polymarket, which is the Peter Thiel associated prediction market, has it for Trump by roughly 62 to 38. This is, of course, the big criticism of this is totally being pushed by rich Trump supporters dumping money in for Trump, and it doesn't really reflect the likely outcomes, but this has it at roughly 62 to 38 for Trump.
Gotcha. So since Trump is receiving a lot of money going his way for the betting odds, that clearly means this data should not be trusted. I'm curious if you'd be seeing the same thing if it was reversed and Kamala was the one leading in the betting odds.
This is going to be close electorally unless it's not, and let me explain that. One of the growing narratives about all of the polling is that there is herding going on.
Oh, here we go about this herding thing.
There is a possibility, if that theory is convincing to you, there is a possibility that this is not close. If it's not close, it's tough to imagine Trump blowing out Kamala. It's easier to imagine Kamala Harris blowing out Trump.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why it's easier for you to imagine Kamala winning in a blowout. It's totally not because you have a biased viewpoint.
I am going to play for you the final, potentially, the final 100 seconds of the atrocity that has been Donald Trump as a political figure. Now, I'm not denying that no matter what happens tonight, he'll claim he won and he'll come out at 2 a.m. and say we won or what. Okay.
Oh, David, you were so close to making a perfect prediction. Instead of 2 a.m., it was actually 2:30 a.m. when Donald Trump gave his victory speech. But without further ado, let's get into his election night live stream.
More votes in from Florida, and it has tightened even more. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now getting very interesting in Florida. Florida, which has been assumed to be lost in the dust, in the garbage, in the trash, as has been a theme lately. In Florida, it was a 4-point win for Trump in 2020. Trump leads by only 2 with 30% of the vote in. If you want a good sign for Kamala Harris, it would be that.
Oh my goodness, maybe the Iowa poll was right.
I don't know how many of you were with me in 2020, okay? But in 2020, when we wrapped up around, I don't remember exactly what time, most of my audience was convinced that it was time to call it for Trump. And I said, it is not yet time to panic. I will tell you when is the time to panic. And you know what? It wasn't time to panic and Joe Biden won.
Okay, guys, no need to panic yet. This is clearly just a red mirage. When we go to bed tonight and wake up, we'll find out that Kamala Harris is going to be the next president. Let's go.
I went by my polling place and noticed a Hispanic gentleman with a Superman outfit, a cape, and a Trump hat. And that was a bit shocking, I must say.
Okay, I need to know who this man is and give him a firm handshake.
Okay, now with 53% of the vote, Trump is leading by 7.5 in Florida. It's hard to interpret that and say rah, rah, rah. Very difficult, because that is now nearly double Trump's margin of victory in 2020. You don't like to see that. No reason to panic. We're all staying calm. We're adults, most of us here. It's early, but that is not necessarily something that you love to see.
I mean, I don't really mind it.
The bad sign is Trump's doubling his 2020 Florida margin of victory. Does anybody care to have the counter to that?
Oh, here we go.
Or do we just move on? Any counter? Okay. The counter is Trump needs Florida. Kamala doesn't. And based on MAGAT movement to Florida over the last 4 years, it makes sense that Trump would win Florida by more. And those are voters that now will not be voting for Trump in states that might actually swing the election.
Oh, that's really good news then for Kamala. So I bet a lot of these voters left swing states to live in Florida now. So this means she's going to win every single swing state, right?
There is an unfortunate reality that I think we have to confront today. And it is not that Kamala Harris is going to lose. We're so far from that. The unfortunate reality is that while some of us are completely fatigued by the insanity of MAGA for 9 years, tonight is really just the beginning. Florida has fallen and it is in Trump's corner with what is right now a brutal, brutal victory for Donald Trump. If you want to see the two worst signs so far, they are that Trump seems to have more than tripled his margin of victory from 2020 in Florida, okay? And that in Georgia, with a third of the vote in, Trump's winning by 9. That's not good.
That's certainly not good, but let's see how you can spin this.
There are people in the audience who are already panicking. But let me tell you why it doesn't make sense to panic right now. So far, all we know is that Trump won Florida by way more than he won it last time. Okay.
Okay, but this is no reason to panic yet, guys. Remember the Iowa poll. Don't worry about real votes right now. Think about the Iowa poll. She was projected to win by 3 points. This means surely she's going to win all of the swing states. Just watch.
I know that there are people that are panicking already in my audience.
Yeah, I'm panicking a little bit.
4 years ago, I told you, I will let you know when to panic. We are nowhere near any time needing to panic. Let him win Florida by 12 if that's what he wants to do.
Exactly. Like, who cares? It's Florida. He was going to win that anyway. We totally didn't have delusions that she had any shot of actually winning Florida before the election.
If Harris can hold these leads in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, they're so early and they're so small. If Harris can hold those, it could be an early night. It could be an early night in the sense that she might just have a blowout here. I'm not predicting that. What I'm telling you is if we continue to see that, that's the direction that it would go.
Okay, phew. So she can still get the blowout victory that we were hoping for. Thank goodness.
There are some signs that don't look good for Trump and some signs that don't look good for Kamala Harris. It is nowhere near time to panic. I see people on Twitch. I see people on YouTube and on X. There's a lot of people getting worried.
I'm getting just a little bit worried.
There is really no reason to get worried right now. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Pakman. Thank you.
Look at all of the stuff Trump took.
Throughout the election night, David Pakman was coming up with his own scenarios of what he thought was most likely going to happen. Let's see what he currently thinks is going to happen.
Pennsylvania alone means that Harris wins. Pennsylvania alone means that Harris wins. Now, imagine that Trump gets this kind of gives Trump everything. I mean, it's like,
yeah, I mean, he's getting everything. I mean, minus a lot of the swing states, but he's getting pretty much everything.
So the point here is Harris only needs to hold one of these things. If Trump gets Pennsylvania, but Harris gets North Carolina and flips either Nevada or Arizona, either, right? This is with Arizona, or Trump gets Arizona, Kamala gets Nevada. In this scenario, look, Trump took Arizona, Trump took Georgia, Trump took Pennsylvania. Just by getting North Carolina, Harris still wins.
I mean, this is too easy for her. She has too many paths of victory at this point. How has Trump not conceded yet?
Over on Kalshi, as you can see, a vertical line from what was 50-50 just a couple of days ago and what was considered 60-40 this morning. This has skyrocketed, putting Trump's odds of winning at 66%. And then finally on Polymarket, which is the Peter Thiel associated kind of astroturfed thing.
Exactly. Keep that in mind, guys. Whatever's on Polymarket cannot be trusted. This 72% is completely fabricated. No one in their right mind would be voting for Trump right now after that Iowa poll came out.
Trump's numbers also skyrocketing, now considered to be 72, 72.2, 72.5. It seems to be climbing before our very eyes, So we will be monitoring these. I don't think that these are accurate per se, but certainly it's interesting to see that there is money flowing in right now to those who believe that it is Donald Trump who is ultimately going to prevail in this election.
Yeah, I mean, that ain't going to happen now.
Again, to give you the numbers now, 21% is roughly 1/5, okay? in the first fifth of the vote, Trump won by 5. Uh-oh.
Oh no, what happened?
Oh dear. We just had an update.
Well, that's good, right?
We now have a quarter of the vote in North Carolina, and Trump's lead has swelled from 65,000 to 95,000.
No. This can't be possible.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, yeah. The tunnel is closing. Okay, let me redo the math that I was just doing.
Yes, please come up with more scenarios of how she can win. Please, I need them right now.
Nebraska 1 would go blue. It wouldn't be this one. It would be this one. Wow. So then we are back to 270 in this scenario. Yeah, this is now looking like a possible and plausible scenario. If you were just tuning in, we may be looking at the closest electoral scenario.
Wow, this is incredible. She's going to win by 2 electoral votes? That would be so crazy. And this is with giving Trump everything.
3% of the vote was just counted. Harris's lead shrunk by 15%. The trajectory in Pennsylvania is worrying me a little bit, if I'm totally honest. And I would only be totally honest with you.
Of course, you would never lie to me.
17 and 46 is 63. Oh my goodness. That is, I don't know. Whoops, I just drew on, oh my goodness. I just drew on my face. Look at that. Oh dear God. I'm going to have to sit with that now the rest of the stream. My God. Harris's lead is down 21% in just the last little bit of time. Just the last little bit of time. These are concerning numbers.
I will give a little credit here to David Pakman. He was at least noticing that Trump was gaining on Kamala very quickly in Pennsylvania. And despite her early lead, he was becoming very worried.
Now, here's something very interesting.
Oh, yes, the Iowa poll. Oh my God, it was right. Holy crap, she's up by 18%. We're saved. We're actually saved.
Very, very interesting. You may remember the Seltzer poll.
Oh, I do.
This is not the Club Soda poll. This is not the Sparkling Water poll. This is the Seltzer poll. Everybody has been saying Trump's going to win Iowa, except for J. Ann Seltzer. J. Ann Seltzer said Kamala's winning Iowa by 3. And one of the things we said was, if Kamala really wins Iowa, or even if Kamala loses Iowa, but only by like 1 or 2, that portends something for Kamala Harris nationally. With 9% reporting, Harris is winning by 17.5 in Iowa.
It's a wrap. The poll was correct. I knew it. We don't even need to count the votes. Kamala wins.
And oh boy, Pennsylvania now with 25%. Harris's lead is down to, oh my God, 25% reporting, 220. Okay, so you all know what I think about that. It's potentially very problematic.
Yeah, but she probably doesn't actually need Pennsylvania, right? Like maybe we can come up with some scenarios where she doesn't need Pennsylvania, but she wins everything else.
And then on Polymarket, the Peter Thiel funded thing.
Yes, the Peter Thiel funded thing.
They continue to climb now to 78%. I don't believe that this is a 78-21 race right now. To me, this is still 50-50, especially because just by holding Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, Harris wins even if she loses a bunch of stuff.
The bunch of stuff you're referring to is like essentially Nevada and Arizona. And in this scenario, that's if she wins Pennsylvania.
If I were a betting man, which I'm not.
Oh, thank God you are not a betting man.
These are very good odds.
Right? That's what I've been saying. 21.5%. That is pretty good odds right now.
Andy says this race is closer than David's eyeballs. Wow, that is rough. That is really, really rough.
I disavow that comment.
And then Polymarket, Polymarket is now seeing a reversal.
Wait, a reversal? Okay, we can start believing in Polymarket again now, right?
This is very interesting. The peak here that we saw for Trump of 78, it's actually starting to reverse. And I think the reason that it's reversing is that there is a really clear path here for Kamala Harris. It doesn't mean she's going to win this, but there is a super clear path, which is just she wins Pennsylvania, she wins Michigan, she wins Wisconsin.
It's that easy. You just win 3 swing states and then you win.
I don't want to alarm you. And again, we're still looking at where is the vote from? Where is the vote from? But Harris's lead from 12 to 32% of the vote counted has shrunk by 66%. 66%. If Pennsylvania goes Trump, it's very bad. Very, very, very bad.
Yeah, that would be no bueno.
So listen, the conspiracy people are convinced that Trump is going to win this thing. Is Trump going to win this thing? Well, I don't know. Now, I see all the people in the chat that are saying, David, Pennsylvania's fine. They've still got to count Allentown. They've still got to count more of Philadelphia. Let's hope that that is the case. Let's absolutely hope that that is the case.
Oh no, the coping is starting.
They have it within 3. Oh my goodness. With 44% of the vote, Pennsylvania is now just plus 20, plus 18. No, hold on. Yes. Oh, wait, Trump is taking a lead.
Uh-oh.
For the first time tonight, with 44% of the Pennsylvania vote counted, Donald Trump is now leading by 18,000 votes.
Well, that can't be good. But don't give up on PA yet. And she could probably still win Iowa.
If Donald Trump were to win, we are going to need to play very high stakes defense for 4 years. And we are going to need strong independent media. Regardless of whether it's this show or another one, we have to do what the right does in supporting independent media. They have Turning Point USA. They have all of the funders of the Daily Wire. They are doing it and the left is not. On the Peter Thiel poly market, Trump has surged to an 88% chance of becoming the next president of the United States.
Those are pretty good odds, but I'm no betting man.
If Trump gets Pennsylvania and Harris gets Arizona, we know she lost North Carolina. Georgia looks like it's going to be lost. She would need to get Nevada, but that wouldn't be enough. She would somehow need Iowa. This is what J.Ann Seltzer said is going to happen based on her polling. Unfortunately, with 27% of the vote in Iowa.
I love how as he says that, he shows Decision Desk, and they have already called Iowa for Donald Trump. But he completely misses it, so he still holds faith that she can somehow win Iowa.
Trump has opened up a 20,000 vote lead. So the difficulty is if you're Harris and you lose Pennsylvania, you then are in the situation where you have to get, but she gets Arizona. You lose Pennsylvania, but she gets Arizona, where she's leading right now. Not only does she have to win Nevada, she has to flip Iowa. And of course, get Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. With 51% reporting Trump's, with 51% reporting Trump's lead is 75K. Yes, that's the biggest lead he's had tonight, but we are still expecting massive, massive dumps from the cities of Pennsylvania.
This is a clear red mirage situation.
There are lots of opinions about what's happening in Pennsylvania. I'm getting people who are saying, David, they haven't counted the cities. David, they haven't counted the mail-in ballots. David, they haven't counted anything in Pennsylvania. There is a lot of confidence in that.
A lot of cope as well, I see.
Trump's lead has grown. We just got another 102K is Trump's current lead in Pennsylvania. Listen, if it's true that when they count Philly and when they count Allentown and all of the mail-in ballots are counted, there's a 600,000 vote margin in there for Kamala Harris. We'll find out very soon. We'll find out very soon, and it'll be great news, and we're all going to learn that before you know it.
Exactly. Just let the votes get counted, and Kamala will miraculously take the lead again.
I mean, listen, I hate to tell you, the scenarios are just getting very, very narrow. They're getting very, very narrow. If Harris does hold Pennsylvania, Arizona, which she's leading in right now, but barely, okay? If Trump gets Pennsylvania, it's actually not enough to win. Oh, and Iowa, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that darn Iowa.
I'm so sorry. I have to go back. Iowa has been called for Trump. And I had Iowa as blue that entire time.
What? How? J. Ann Seltzer had the poll that said otherwise. What are you talking about? How could he win?
There are numbers of scenarios where Harris can still win this thing. One of them is on the screen right now. If she loses Nevada, she still wins. If she loses Nevada and Arizona, she still wins. However, if all of a sudden Trump gets Pennsylvania, it's over.
Long story short, Kamala needs Pennsylvania to win at this point.
Additional data from Pennsylvania now. We now have 62% in Pennsylvania, and Trump leading by 17 plus 1. 17 plus 1. 7 plus 1 is 8, carries 0, 1, 18. 118,000.
Why did it take him so long to add 1 to 117? What was going through his head? I need to know. What in the world?
I don't know how many times I can explain this to you. This really isn't about me. I'm going to be fine, okay? I'm worried about other people. Like, Trump will probably lower my taxes. I don't deserve a tax cut. It's not economically stimulative. I'm just going to put the money in a bank account. It doesn't make sense. I voted for Harris because it makes sense. It makes sense.
Forgive me for my pun, but voting for Harris does make sense. But voting for Trump makes dollars.
We are looking at Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, and Pennsylvania. At this exact moment in time, Donald Trump is winning all 5 of those states.
Okay, well, that's clearly not good, but maybe we can make a scenario where she somehow wins Idaho and Alaska. Like, is that enough votes?
Matt says this is disheartening. It's not over, folks. You've got to count the votes. You've got to count the votes, and we are just not ready to say that it is over yet. One of the scariest things for me, it's like, listen, Trump's a doofus. If he wins, we're going to figure out what happens on foreign policy, what happens on economic policy, all this stuff. But the idea that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be overseeing the FDA and the CDC, and that is absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. One of the scariest things to me, as someone who values science and empiricism, is that RFK is going to start dipping his hands into all of those agencies. Terrifying. Terrifying, terrifying.
That is truly terrifying. Those agencies clearly don't need any kind of reform or improvements. Everything they have said or done has been perfect for the American people.
I do want people to understand how insane this is. Trump could barely speak at his rally yesterday. He could barely speak. And he might win.
Oh no, reality's starting to set in.
The last we looked at Pennsylvania, Donald Trump was leading by 110,000 votes. He is now leading by 161,000 votes, by far his largest lead of the night. In Arizona, Trump is still leading by 2,900 votes. Something is happening in Arizona where we have gotten basically 2,000 votes in the last hour. Something seems very wrong there. They're not only curing ballots, they're sautéing and air frying ballots, and that's why it's taking so long. I don't know.
I do want to take a moment to give credit to David here. While I don't agree with him on pretty much anything politically, I enjoy that he can still poke fun at Arizona's incredibly inept ballot counting during a point in his live stream where things aren't looking so good for his favorite candidate.
Fox News. Oh, I was recently on the Piers Morgan show with this guy, Kevin O'Leary, Canadian guy.
Process and anointed somebody. The analogy is easy to a Super Bowl. You arrive at the Super Bowl game, and by any measure, this is the Super Bowl of global politics, the presidential race. Your quarterback, Biden, is injured. He's taken out of the game. You don't bring a quarterback in that's never, ever, ever won any game anywhere. You run a process, and they missed that opportunity. This is a chance for them to, I'm not saying they're going to lose, but I'm going to those percentages and saying, they get to reboot. They get to go back to the center. They get to scratch this whole thing. And the influences of a Schumer or a Pelosi or a movie star or an Obama deciding to anoint somebody, those guys are gone in 4 years. They won't have that kind of influence. This could be great for America because I'm an investor. I have to work with who's ever in the White House in January. But I care about policy. And when I hear policies coming out of a party that are so twisted against the American way of life, like basically taxing capital gains that are unrealized, that's not America. Or price controls, that's not America. 28% tax rate takes us to the bottom quartile of competition. That's bad. We can't do that. That would hurt the country. And all I do is work with entrepreneurs that want to build businesses. There's a reason people come here under barbed wire and drown in rivers to get into America. It's the American dream. It's the only thing the president has to do is to...
That's enough. This guy's completely delusional. He said a lot of this stuff verbatim when I was on the Piers Morgan show with him very recently. It didn't make any sense then, and it doesn't make any sense now.
It's hilarious how he thinks what Kevin O'Leary is saying is delusional. While yes, he was parroting this same line over and over again leading up to the election, he is still making very valid points. Points that the left are still failing to come to terms with, and is exactly why they still struggle to this day on realizing how they lost this election.
They're saying everything in Pennsylvania is going as planned. Okay, I hope that that's true. I'm a little bit struggling to believe that Pennsylvania is going as planned. I just struggle. I mean, the margin now is growing.
Whoever on the left was claiming everything was still going as planned for PA at this point in the night needs their head examined.
What are the paths to victory at this point in time? Well, we have outlined them. And we have Nevada, we just don't know anything about yet. Right now, if the results stayed as they are, we have a blowout win for Donald Trump. Now, we could be seeing a red mirage here, okay? But what is very clear is that Harris needs almost all of these states. Even if I give her everything but Pennsylvania, she doesn't win. She doesn't win. So Pennsylvania is must win.
Yes, and it has been for quite a while now.
I'm being told by one of our team that Alan Lichtman on his stream is despondent over the fact that his keys may have gone wrong. I am a little curious about this. Let's just check out. We recently had him on the show. He's a really good guy. Let's see.
Hey, watch your language.
Oh, I wasn't talking to my mom like that. I just was saying that generally. The chat is so hard to follow right now. It's so laggy.
I know.
You don't know that. You haven't seen the chat.
No, but I get it.
Oh my goodness. All right. So I don't know if despondent is net. Whoa, hold on a second. Wow. This is the wrong screen. I don't know if despondent is necessarily the word I would use, but I mean, listen, I do think that if the keys fall for Alan Keyes, Alan Keyes is a different guy. If the keys fall for Alan Lichtman, I do think it would be a devastating blow, you know, closer to the end of his political predicting career. Certainly.
Yeah, things haven't been going so well for Alan Lichtman lately.
And Pennsylvania, which could be the absolute critical one, was recently 177,000 vote margin. It has now gone up to 189,000 vote margin. Could reverse. We're going to follow it. Arizona, still, after nearly 2 hours, major problems seemingly in Arizona. Arizona still stuck with a 2,900 vote lead for Trump. What a night. Let's not lose hope. It could still go either way, and we must count all of the votes. I'll see everybody tomorrow.
Unfortunately, David Pakman ended his stream a little before it was declared a Trump victory, and we won't be able to see his live reaction to it. But I do have some clips of what he had to say directly following Trump's win over Harris.
So let's start with the obvious, no way to sugarcoat it, very bad news. Failed former President Donald Trump is poised to become a failed president once again. Donald Trump has defeated Kamala Harris. It has shocked the world that there are tens of millions of Americans in this country willing to do it again.
Well, just as expected, the left is still unable to grasp why the American people support and vote for Donald Trump.
There is a preference overall right now among Americans. There is a preference for a convicted felon, billionaire, wannabe fascist over a black woman with a completely uncontroversial sort of center-left economic message and policy.
Well, I see the left have fallen right back in line to their Trump is a fascist narrative. And what is he even talking about? He is overdosing on delusion if he thinks Kamala was uncontroversial. I'll admit that Trump is controversial, but it's because I acknowledge people have different viewpoints than I do. But for you to think Kamala was anywhere near the center in her political views is just insane.
But what I do want to point to is that I guess Biden wasn't really too old after all. Now, I don't mean if Biden had stayed in, he would have won. What I mean is that the attacks on Biden's brain and the attacks on Biden's age were not considered with the same seriousness by those voting for Donald Trump.
Does he realize that people diminish in their capabilities at different rates than others? Trump may be close in age to Biden, but Biden was showing very obvious signs of declining cognitive abilities for a few years now. It just took the left until the Trump-Biden debate for them to finally open their eyes and admit to reality.
As I told you last week, a linguistic analysis found that while Joe Biden's communication has declined over the last 8 years, Trump's has declined significantly more, and Harris, who's 20 years younger than Trump and Biden, has had no decline in her speech patterns.
Really now? You see, the key point David Pakman is leaving out is that Biden and Harris read from teleprompters essentially any time they talk publicly. And if they ever aren't talking with a script on hand, it is only for 30 minutes or less. Meanwhile, Trump constantly goes off script or goes on rants, and he's at least willing to go on a podcast such as Joe Rogan and have a 3-hour unscripted conversation with him. I wonder why Kamala wasn't willing to do the same. There were clear benefits to be had for her campaign to do so, unless they knew it was something that she was not capable of doing.
This was a referendum on, to some degree, identity. Do I want the wannabe dictator, convicted felon white dude, or do I want the black woman? And unfortunately, in this country, a lot of people didn't want the black woman.
And there it is. Back to it must be because of her race and sex. It's definitely not because of her political views. The left really will never learn, will they?
I have to have a difficult conversation with you. I'm going to tell you something that is terrifying me. I always try to come here and put a positive face on everything, but there is something going on that is terrifying me. When I woke up this morning, we had lost 5,000 YouTube subscribers compared to where we were last night. Now, the first thing I thought was, is this a glitch? We've been on YouTube for 15 years or something like that, and subscribers always just go up. They just never go down. They go up. Is something wrong with my channel? Is someone attacking my channel? What's going on? So I started texting, and I texted Brian Tyler Cohen, and I texted Tyler Cohen, and Brian Cohen and Brian Tyler, all of them. I texted all of them. I texted Jesse Dollimore. I texted Luke Beasley and Farron Cousins and Sam Cedar. And every single one of our channels since last night is hemorrhaging subscribers.
Hey, maybe this will be a wake-up call about how far left their views have gone. So much so that the people in the center and center-left have started supporting Republicans. Or they'll continue to find no blame in themselves and their political views. All jokes aside, I don't agree with David Pakman on much, but I do respect him as an independent creator. He puts in a lot of time and effort into his channel, and for that I respect. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.